Hey Kev, it's time to record a new Smodcast.
Fuck off. I'm listening to one of the other great shows on the Smodcast podcast network. Scott?
There's so many to choose from.
You damn skippy, there's so many to choose from. I'm on 5 every week myself, man. Hollywood Babylon on Monday, Smodcast with you on Tuesday, Jay and Silent Bob Get Old on Wednesday with Jay Muse, Fat Man on Batman every Thursday, and then I wrap up the week with Edumacation with Andy McElfresh.
There's so many to choose from.
Hell yeah, son, and those aren't the only podcasts. Those are just the ones I'm involved with. What about the podcasts of Smodco that don't feature me, man? Like Tell 'em Steve Dave, Last Week on Earth with Ben Glebe, I Sell Comics with Ming and Mike.
There's so many to choose from.
Hey man, there's also Film School Fridays or Netheads or Get Up on This, Team Jack.
There's so many to choose from.
The Breaks, man. Waking from the American Dream, Bagged and Boarded, Phoebe, Soundbite Nation. These are all the shows you could be listening to over at smodcast.com, Scott.
There's so many to choose from.
And if audio's not enough for you, man, if you're just like, no, I want the thick dick of video as well, man, well, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is C-Smod, or you can watch Comic Book Men, our show on AMC, following The Walking Dead and The Talking Dead every Sunday night.
There's so many to choose from.
That's right, Scott. There are so many to choose from. So get choosing, kids. Go to smodcast.com. Start getting picky, man. Stick these sweet, sweet oral sounds into your ear pussies.
There's so many to choose from.
You said that already.
There's so many to choose from.
My name is Kevin Smith.
My name is Bryan Johnson.
My name is Walt Flanagan.
And we're here to talk about Highlands, a Peephole history.
Let's talk about the Highlands Rec Center, because that's the thing that we all have in common, and what brings us actually all together. That's 86 you start?
Start in 86.
Fall of 86.
No, that would have been...
Yeah.
But you wouldn't be 19 in 86, would you?
Well, yeah, because I was 86 of
That's
October.
right. Yeah, you would have been.
Yeah, so I would have been 19. And then I start working there. And as I'm working there, my friends start coming down to see me, like Bryan and Ed.
Right.
Hart. And actually, Hart's was a guy that Hartsgrove would come down there. He knew Timmy because he would play sports down there too.
Right. And Bryan Hartsgrove, you guys have talked about on the podcast, and I don't know if he's probably come up on Smodcast before.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan Hartsgrove, did he live in Highlands or he lived out in Keensburg?
Well, actually,
He lived in the projects.
He was at the projects, then he moved to Keensburg.
So technically, he is definitely Highlands.
Yeah.
He was the dude I learned to play golf from. He had CP. What did he have exactly?
Yeah, CP. Cerebral
CP.
palsy.
This dude had a CP, but was like the fucking...
But it was a fucking maniac.
Oh my! He was the poster child that they never fucking put on a poster.
Well,
he was
Did everything.
He was the OG, like you know when people are like
He was
he's
good
not
at it.
handicapped, he's handy capable. He was fucking handy, way better than Kev Smith and a lot of shit across the board.
We were playing pickup basketball.
This dude could race me like the Flash versus Superman and literally win. Like he was fast, even with his crutches.
Yeah, he was fast.
He had CP.
A threshold for pain too.
With this dude literally play goal on his fucking feet, and fucking Ed would chop at his fingers.
Yeah,
stick.
it's crazy.
Like reaching for the ball and just chop, chop, chop at his fucking fingers. And you're like, Ed. He's got like barely half a fucking catcher's mitt on. And no waffle board. He only worked catcher's mitt and glove, baseball pitching glove on the other hand.
Yeah.
So Ed's literally chopping at his fucking fingers.
Well, we took. I mean, I don't know. Nobody gave him an inch though.
No,
if he played, we treated
world.
him as 100% equal. Doesn't matter. If
It was so cool. I came into the world late when this had already been established. And all I remember is like I'd seen Bryan Hartsgrove in town and like never really talked to him. He was older than me. But you know, you see a guy with crutches, you're like, oh, there, but for the grace of God, go I. Until you get to know him and you're like, Jesus, fuck this guy. He's way better at everything than I am. He's very athletic and very busy. And like this dude
he doesn't have the power of his legs, and he can actually walk, and he actually exerts himself more than me, and I got the full power of my legs. Like, he's a better man in any way, you know, it doesn't matter the way you shake it. He's a better man. But I remember like driving past him and being like, oh, the poor guy with the crutches and shit. Then I get to the wreck, and you guys, like, nobody gives him special treatment. Everybody's just like, Art, you fucking idiot.
You suck.
Yeah, like literally, like it would be like your fucking dog beats you at Monopoly, you know, but loses because it miscounted its bank, and you're like, you fucking suck. I knew I would beat you, you know, like, by a technicality. It was crazy. Like, this dude was skilled. Like, not only just like, oh, it's nice he plays with the normies or whatever. He was fucking good, better than most.
Do you remember that move? Like, if you faked him to one side and you got him to come across, and he would kick back like a mule, and he'd bring one foot up and he'd make that save. It was fucking phenomenal, man. People would go crazy because it was such an awesome move.
And if he didn't make the save, he'd get pissed and throw his fucking glove in the air every time.
Yeah, it was great. He was a passionate.
He played every sport, though.
He played softball at least once a season. When he played softball,
No,
he was the pitcher. Right. And somebody would line drive a ball right into his face, and he would have a fucking huge black eye that was swollen shut.
It was almost like the very, like, played every fucking sport.
We played tackle football. He'd be the guy.
He had bent legs, like the knees not kind of CP look, like, you know, he would have to do the hop kind of walk without the crutches. Bent at the knees. And
so
he would play football.
He played football. So this is how he would be the quarterback in tackle football. So he hikes the ball, you give him the 7 Mississippis, and then one of the guys on the other team would come in and literally
as hard as he could,
just like anybody else. But then on the opposite side, though, when the other guy hikes the ball, he would be the guy that counts then.
Right.
And if you made a little move, like when he got in, as he came in with his legs, if you made a little move and he bit for the move, he'd be out of the play for a while. Right. But then there was times when you forgot about him, though. Yeah, he couldn't adjust
around
to cut.
And like, oh shit.
But if you forgot that you thought you had him when he was on the ground and he was out of it, if you forgot though, he'd come back at you and he was strong.
His upper body strength is unreal.
Certainly, he had orangutan like strength, all upper body. It was just like he could pull himself up. Like, dude could do many a pull.
Tear a chick's face off.
And he would hammer you from behind. And it was like
his ass would get all
present himself.
Go ahead.
And he would just hit you, and you fucking were like, you felt like you got hit with a cinder block. It was like a lot of upper body strength and a lot of lower body dead weight.
Yeah.
That just hit you, and you were just like hard.
So he has to break earlier. In order
there
to stop
no break.
There's no break. He just hits you with the full fucking truck, man, of all this weight just hitting you, not holding back.
And you loved it when he fucking, like, if you know, both teams loved it when he fucking got a good fucking solid hit on somebody because you were just like,
Hearts! He was also a guy who had a lot of nicknames. It was Hearts, it was Crab, it was Stillskin.
He played badminton. He played basketball. You'd set him up for that shot from the top of the key.
that granny shot. And he'd just like flip it, and sometimes he'd fall.
And so all my friends would stop down to see me as I worked at the rec.
Right.
And Bryan would come down and.
Which Bryan? Hartsgrove or
No, Johnson. And I guess he got to come down enough that Timmy, I guess, took a shine to him as well, like in terms of like he liked him, you know. And I guess he offered you a lifeguard job first, right?
Lifeguarding job, yeah, in the summer.
He went to you. Did he offer you a lifeguarding job ever?
I don't know how to swim.
Did he ever say, like, hey, do you want to be a lifeguard? And you're like, oh.
I don't even have a fucking license. I think I'm going to go learn how to swim at that age.
I mean, did he know that? Or did he just assume, like,
well, I'm working inside.
No license,
I'm working on the inside. And I've told anybody and everybody that I can't stand the beach. I would never.
Okay. So he doesn't think to go to you, but then he meets fucking beach blanket bingo.
I'm a field boy.
Yeah. Send this one out to the field. He's out there on the beach just going, looking for the man. Walt's in the fucking plantation house serving pudding. You were, though, a lot of people, I guess, particularly that listen to your podcast and have an image of you of the giant beard and a slightly stockier man. This Bryan Johnson that was approached by Timmy Hill.
The lifeguard Bryan Johnson.
Adonis Bryan.
Like literally cut from marble. Like, you could see him is in a Grecian urn. He was definitely an impressive specimen. Like, that's why the dude would go like, would you like the lifeguard? Like, he looked like he could save somebody's life. Now,
Not so much. It looks like I might lose my own life.
Somebody call the lifeguard for him.
But Timmy did ask me. He goes, "I'm gonna." Before he even asked you, I remember him saying, I got still some lifeguard positions open. What do you think about Bryan?"
Vouch for this guy.
And I was like, "Yeah, definitely. He could definitely do it.
Should he do it?
Should he do it?" He didn't ask me that.
You never brought any shame for lifeguarding, though, right?
A little bit.
What, you just like tried to fuck chicks on the beach and the lifeguard? They're like, it's not
no, one
screw 'em
time he was my girlfriend Jill. Well, she wasn't my girlfriend then, but I got she and her sister, I got them jobs lifeguarding too through a girlfriend I had at the time. She was friends with them, whatever. And so Timmy took them in the van and showed them the beaches. And when he got to the bridge beach, I was going off the rope swing with kids, and that was a huge no-no. And Jill said that he said to her, like, he's a nice guy, but I just don't know about him sometimes.
because you, the lifeguard,
should not be.
Let's
jump on the swing
under the bridge. The rope swing, which we should bring up. You're talking about the one under the bridge,
Right, the old drawbridge.
There was Bridge Beach, which we've spoken about in the contents of Bridge Beach on Smodcast episode. Was also basically it was under the Highlands Bridge that stretched over to Sandy Hook.
Right.
Is that called the Highlands Bridge?
Mm-hmm.
At the base of it on the Highlands side, not the base of it on the Sandy Hook side, but the base of it on the Highlands side, it was a drawbridge. There was a rope under one of the pylons, a long, like, yacht rope.
A very long rope. Right.
Thick rope, strong rope, too.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you would pull the rope over to one of the pylons and then jump and swing and essentially.
Right, yeah, you would pull it over to like the trestle part, and then you would swing off and then jump into the water.
Or in the case of the one guy in our town, Tommy, right?
Mm-hmm. Tommy.
Okay. In the case of Tommy Mason, he was a gentleman who climbed on the swing rope, but climbed all the way up.
He climbed all the way up to the top, and when the bridge was
climbed
going
all the way up the rope to the top of the bridge, so he's in the guts inside the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a drawbridge. And as the drawbridge opens in the middle, the back end section tilts down.
Right.
Under what's, and suddenly if you're at the top of that rope, revealed to you, opening up like fucking, like, is this large concrete mass, the bridge, that's suddenly
like a counterweight that helps the bridge open.
And you're seeing the bottom of the bridge, man. That like it's within reach. And this dude thought about reaching it.
They used to hang from it and play chicky.
Chicken?
Really?
Chicken?
No, chicken. Well,
chicken, yeah.
Chicky is when it's just like.
Chicky's when like, there's a teacher coming.
Yeah. Chicken is just like.
And you're supposed to let go at the last possible second.
So basically, you climb up the rope, you grab onto the bottom of the bridge when it opens.
Right.
And you hold on to it and ride it, although it's not really a ride.
It just, you have to hold on, and it just lifts you in the air.
Yes.
As the other side goes back
down. The other
down.
side's going back down, and it's lifting you close to its connection point, where if you don't let go at a certain point, your hands would get crushed.
Right.
As was the case with Tommy, who was holding on to the bottom and somehow didn't let go.
Well, he didn't let go. Yeah, I guess he really wanted to fucking ride it to the top.
I always thought that maybe it was like, perhaps he didn't realize the mechanism as it got closer went faster. Like as he was taking the ride up, but as it closes, it's falling into place at a quicker rate. Like it's going. Right. So maybe he just didn't anticipate how quickly it would go.
He didn't adjust for the speed, and next thing
trapped,
you know,
right?
Well, it cut off all his fingertips.
Was he hanging by his fingertips?
No, I think it crushed him and he fell into the water. And then it rained down on him.
Get out of here.
I mean, I don't know. It may have like got stuck in the bridge, but I remember because I was friends with him, and I remember seeing his fingers afterwards, and they were cut off right like at that top joint part.
The top knuckle?
Yeah.
So I always, for some reason, I wasn't there, but I'd always heard the story that like he was holding on and they got crushed, but he was hanging there.
Nah, that's a fucking powerful bridge.
Keep him up there, right?
Yeah.
Not for very long.
Well, if you were holding as well as being crushed, but then you probably stop holding because you're in so much
Like,
fucking pain. Yeah. Wow, man. Could you imagine? And then just fall into the fucking. I would be thinking like I'm falling into the river with bleeding fingers, like the sharks are coming. But that was weird. That was bridge. So that's the bridge beach. And you were caught swinging off that rope by Timmy Hill?
With kids, yeah. With kids I was supposed to be watching.
Hence being a poor example.
Yeah.
Now, the rec had a summer program that
First
seems
of
where
many
you were
times.
very, no doubt.
What, a bad example?
Yeah.
Well, then I said something to the fucking water tester guy, too. There was a guy that used to come down there and test for water quality. And I think didn't he go back and he complained to Timmy about me because I told him to go fuck himself or something stupid like that. I can't remember what it was.
Well, I'm ever picking fights, just rebelling against everything. Who are you to tell me that?
Well, I wasn't about to pluck my lightning bolt out of my ear and cut my hair like this guy. We talked, his job on the beaches was a rec summer program. It was seasonal. He didn't work once the summer ended.
He did, but then eventually he did.
He moved into other positions.
He moved into the inside building.
Probably an inside man. It was my day.
Like, you could sit here on the porch, Brian. You're like, yeah, no more fields and beaches for me.
Until next summer.
It was a good lifeguard rate. I seem to remember you liking the money because it was easy money for very little work.
Yeah, you sat in the sun all day, yeah, and it was at that time it was a lot. Rate. Yeah, it seemed like a lot.
Describe your average day at the rec when you were there. Like
my average thing?
Yeah.
I would get there.
And you were full time at that point?
No, I was part time, and then I eventually got into full time. But
when did you go full time?
When?
Yeah. How many years were you there before you went full time?
3.
Okay, so let's say the beginning when you were there.
I would get there around 1, and I would do whatever, like make copies for him or call bingo for senior citizens.
You would do that?
Yeah, set
How
up.
was that?
That was fun. Not really, but
What do you mean, not really? Just
do you think
it was easy.
Has it been long enough that you can admit to calling to fucking defrauding the senior citizens?
I fixed the games.
How?
Because if bitches fucking were complaining and fucking moaning at like, you're not calling good numbers, or you're like, we can't hear him, or blah blah blah. And then I hear him go, I only need this number. I would be like, if that number came up, I would like drop it and say it was another number.
Right.
Or if I heard a lady who was nice to me say I only need this number,
yes.
I would say that number came up then.
But there was also
favorites.
Yeah.
Well, you're selling yourself a little short because there was a lady who actually got into like some financial straits. Remember?
Right.
And you told me that she needed money, and you called her numbers for her without her knowing, of course.
How did I know she needed money?
Because she worked there all the time.
Right.
She and the other
That's
lady.
That's probably true. I probably did do that.
It was definitely true. You told me you did it.
But if the ladies were nice to me, and if I can hear them say to their friends like, I only need this number. Come on, I only need this number.
Right.
And if I knew like somebody was getting really close because somebody's going to win on the next ball because everybody's got really close.
Right.
If I heard that number come up to somebody I really liked, I would call their number then.
You were like Batman, dude.
I don't know about that.
Sometimes.
Yeah, you were like, I'm taking justice.
Sometimes I'd go in there with a gray wig and a limp. Get some beer money.
What were they? Were they winning money at those bingo games?
Yes.
Is that
Which is probably illegal.
No, I don't think. Timmy said that there was a certain amount of, it was under a certain amount of money. The state really didn't care.
Wow, is that still legit?
It might be.
Okay, so you'd call bingo for the old ladies. And
I would drive.
Fucking judge them.
When I got my license, I would drive old ladies to like appointments and stuff. I would pick up bread. I would deliver bread.
Years later.
We were bread delivery for a while. It was fucked up, stale, smelly van.
We would go to Red Bank.
Yeah, a whole
pick up,
fucking van full of smelly bread.
Old stale bread, and we would fucking deliver it to senior center.
And they'd all fight over it. Like they go crazy as soon as you walked in.
Just seniors, man. Well, I guess they were. My mom would go down there all the time. She would go with my grandmother, who was a senior, but. We had
tell my boy to come directly home after ceramics.
There were many a day she came home with a loaf of bread, block of cheese, straight from the rec center, man. And it wasn't like it was. I mean, it was. I guess it was for fucking underprivileged. I mean,
well, I think if you're over a certain age, you can get it. They had to get rid of the bread, or it was going to go stale. They didn't care who it went. It wasn't like strict red.
I'll take it.
And that's why I'm fat.
It was going to get thrown away, so they didn't care who took it.
Very, very true.
But they would get, but people who were getting it though, if you got too much, it became an issue. Like, look, why is she taking so much?
She got
bread?
the rye.
She got the good stuff.
And you're talking about people who are already blue hairs, who were probably involved in breadline situations at one point in their lives already. So we're vulturous about it because they were like, why are they getting more? Like they're seeing the shortage of bread in their past and in their present.
But the best part of the job though was just running like sporting activities for the neighborhood kids.
Right.
And you get to play too.
The big game for me when I eventually joined the rec was kickball. Was it for you kickball?
I hated kickball though.
Really? Why?
Because kickball was always like a
sport. Can't believe
It was a little kid game.
It was a little kid game, and it was
the only
always
game I felt comfortable playing.
I'm not going to get my ass kicked.
because
Tough boys don't play this, do they?
you were one throw away from a catastrophic injury with kickball playing on a concrete surface. Because if somebody hits that kid's legs just right, they're going down face first on a concrete.
Because in kickball, as we all know, there's a point where if you've got the ball, you whip it at a motherfucker to tag him.
Right.
So
many times at his feet while they're running.
Yes, and on the concrete.
Little
and it was one of those bouncy balls. So it could get tied up under their feet and they'd trip, fall backwards, or
not on grass. Or on fucking hard as hell concrete.
Tennis courts, man. Like essentially.
But I like playing with like the teenagers though, because like they were old enough to actually get a somewhat competitive game together. And while they argued a lot more and wanted fouls called or like me to be umpires, and it still was so much more tolerable to play with like a 15, 16-year-old kids than with 5 and 6, 7, 8-year-olds.
Right.
I hated that.
Yeah, because little kids are pussies and fucking teenage boys and men.
Well, not even men, but it's more fun.
Yes.
It's more fun.
They're more competitive and shit. And also, if you could like not hold back, you could.
Well, not like I'm going out to like all out, but at least like I was getting, it felt fucked up because like I'm getting paid to be like the quarterback, like, for both sides. Like, there was like, what's it called? Automatic quarterback. So like if it was like a 4-on-4, I was the ninth guy and I would quarterback both sides then.
Right.
And throw it to these kids for years. It was so much fun.
They also had, pool tables.
Yeah.
They had foosball. When I got there, they had an asteroids game. So wait, the chronology of this is interesting to me. You started in September of 86?
Yeah.
I joined the rec then only 2 years after you?
Yeah.
I thought you'd been there for like ever.
Well, I had been going there as a kid.
Well, I mean, I thought as an employee.
But why would you think that though? Did I look that much older than you?
You were like Fonzie in that place. Seriously, like you would fucking tap the front desk.
Well, as you can see, in any environment, I own it if I'm there.
Back in those days, I would never dream of putting a Darth Vader statue anywhere. Oh yeah, you had the place wired in such a way that I was like, he's been here forever. I assumed it. I mean, because Timmy had intimated as much at one point, maybe saying he's been here forever, and maybe he was being, he'd been coming since he's a kid. But he didn't differentiate. I thought he meant as an employee. For whatever reason, I thought you'd been there for years before me. It's interesting to find out it's only 2. It's a game changer.
Not really.
It would have been back in time if I was like,
well, you were intimidated?
Oh, very much.
He wanted to be Chachi to your Fonzie.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
You look like you could care less.
Theory. I mean, I'll lay this on you, but it's a theory that I've been working on for a few years, and some people agree. Malcolm backs the theory in a big way. The theory that I'm working on is all of my success is predicated on you, because since we met and started hanging out, I was always like, I got to impress this guy. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong. I think I might back the theory.
I meet Bryan later, and then there's transference there where I'm like, oh, Bryan dials into different areas. Like,
now you connected more with Bryan. It seems like you really like.
Yes, because we connect in areas.
And I had a girl.
I don't. And then you.
I had a girl, and I came away, and I drove. I kind of drifted away.
But if you think about it, like I was just talking about, I think I was talking about with Malcolm. I was like, I don't think you've ever met the real Kevin Smith. I said, I think Walter and Bryan met him a little bit, but like by the time you met me, I was the paradigm of Kevin Smith plus Walter's interests. Because when I went to the rec, I went friendless when I took that job in September of '88. I had kind of broken up with my friends, as it were, as the year would go on. Like Bellicose was dating Jane Kurtz for a long time and shit, and they were pairing up in a big bad way. Ernie O'Donnell was paired up with this other girl, Lori, in our class, and didn't really hang out with them. I was going out with a chick who was in a grade below them, Kim Lochran and whatnot, so they didn't really associate with her. And we just started, and also when you couple up, it's like, why do I want to hang out? I'm trying to get laid. I want to come with someone else. I don't want to hang out with a dude. So we had kind of all drifted and shit like that. And then Ernie and I, in late '88, got in a bad fucking tiff over the talent show, which is so weird, a tiff between two men, but whatever. And then our friendship went right in the toilet.
Theater facts.
Theater facts.
Drama facts is what they call this. When I joined the rec, I was essentially friendless, and I had just broken up with Kim Lochran, so I had no girlfriend. So I was at a place in my life where I was like, everything that I had known had come to a complete end. I was out of Henry Hudson.
How'd you get the job?
And somebody said something about there's a position at the rec center, and read about it. And it was like for the CASE program, which was children's after school enhancement. Essentially, it was a latchkey kid program kind of thing, where what happens is, you got some parents getting home from school at 5, 6 o'clock. They don't want to leave their kids in the house. So they send them down. They sign them up for the CASE program. Kids come down from school and spend the next 3-4 hours there until their parents pick them up. Okay, so when I get to the place, I'm a blank slate, essentially, is what I'm getting at. Everything that I've known.
How did you get it, though?
How I got the job was through fucking like my guidance counselor in school. I was in the class, in the one, you had a mandatory session every fucking semester or something like that. And so I was just like, well, look, I could use your help getting a job. I need a job. And she's like, well, there's a job at the Highlands Recreation Center, blah, blah, blah. So it was through school that I got that job. So it started in '87. So you'd only been working at the rec for a year prior to me getting there not to. And you still seem like you had it wired like Fonzie. But what it was just your very shut down, kind of personality based on motherfucker in a fucking pizza joint who was like, years ago.
Yeah.
Because when I joined the rec, and I think we've said this in Smodcast, or maybe not, Walter and I didn't talk for 8 months.
In a very tiny building.
I mean, and we worked together for 3 hours a day. I mean, it wasn't a taxing job. That's what I loved about it. It was like from 3 to 6, sometimes 7 or whatever. And the pay was pretty good. It was like 7 or 8, maybe not 5, 6. I don't know. It was a little more than minimum
okay
wage.
For a high school student.
And totally. And also for what you were doing and whatnot. But for 8 months I worked there. I remember Tim introduced you to me on the first day. It was like, this is Walter Flanagan and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey. And hey, that was the last thing you said to me until 8 months later when I brought up another conversation. So building was not very big, and we would be in close proximity all the time, but it was like working with Lurch. You just didn't really talk. You just, every once in a while, you would react like,
you rang.
Yeah. Or just react in a way of like something displeased you. You can tell. But that was, it was a series of grunts and shit.
Well, did you see Bryan come down and see me? Or
yeah, like your friends would come in, you were like, hey! I was like, these guys must be fucking, they got something I don't. So there was that. From the get-go, 8 months of it's like doing a prison term with somebody and being in the same cell, and you don't have a conversation until like the first year in, and you're like, where are you from? What are you doing, John?
You just keep hoping Walt's not going to fuck you.
It was strange. It was really
well, you talk about it being, I forget what you called it, the beginning of your rise or whatever.
Yes.
I say that too, though. Like, it's weird, though, that like in that same month of '88.
Yeah.
I became friends with you. I met my wife all probably within the same span.
Yeah.
So when you and I,
hold on. We didn't really meet. We met in '87. You just didn't start talking until '88.
That's true.
So something happened in your life. If we trace the ley lines, you had a good,
I'm in love.
Not at all. It wasn't in love.
He was. I don't think he'd started
I need time to
dating
warm
her
up
yet.
to people.
Yeah, that was a long time. You were like, that was like Vinny length, man. Vinny was the same way. Like, I worked at RST with Vinny for like half a year before
Vinny ever said anything, it was just because I was watching Twin Peaks. He was like, "You like this?" And I was like, "You could talk." Like they felt bad. Vinny was the lurch of Quickstop.
Well, because you know what, I had to admit I was not biased, but I had prior knowledge or prior, what's it called when you like I had remembered, not that I ever talked to you in high school,
right?
But I remember
like preconceived notions.
Yeah, that's it. Preconceived notions of like not really finding.
He ain't metal.
Yeah, and you were just like you were, and I saw you in a talent show, and I was like, that ain't funny.
Did you?
Yeah, maybe.
Did you see
something
a
like
sketch?
that?
Oh no, you can say it. I wouldn't have bothered me. You think and now at this point, I'm like, that's the breaking point.
think,
get out, Walt.
Bry, you're hired.
I'm done with you. I'm wearing my robe and shit. I'm like, Bry, you're in charge.
I tread lightly because I remember something about.
You tread lightly about the talent show, dude.
Because I mean, you could say shit that could still affect you to this day if I said something that. Because all I remember is something about Ralph Cramden.
Point. Yeah, I did the honey umpus.
And people went crazy for it.
Yes.
And I remember I was sitting and was like, that shit ain't funny.
See, but that's the Walt Flanagan I'm talking about. That's the Walt Flanagan that forged me from steel, remade the me in 19. By the time we started having a conversation, it was at the end of my senior year. I still held on. Timmy kept me it was a 1-year gig, but he kept me for another 6 months at a kind of reduced rate in a semi-case program. We finally had a conversation about, I finally worked up the sack to be like,
hi.
And he ran away to the bathroom.
Like, that's what him. Did that unfunny motherfucker just say hi to me?
Run away to the bathroom, covering his face.
threw myself against the door, sink down to the floor on my ass.
What have I done? Oh my God.
That didn't go as I planned it at all. I'm like crying. I rehearsed it so many times. When I did it with the dog, it went great. No, I was like, I know you like comics, man.
How'd you know?
Kind of fucking. I've been hearing you talk to people, just
but
not
there's
me.
no way I talked about comics, though.
Probably.
I think
with
you
Timmy.
talked about Batman, about the
I've heard
movie or
about
something.
No, it wasn't. Batman wasn't out yet.
Right,
Batman
it
didn't come out
was a
till 89,
production or
right?
something.
And maybe
And you
I
were
mentioned
excited about it for some reason.
Yeah.
Or something was on.
Me and my dog are putting on a Batman play.
and then you had, and then, like, it was not even a long conversation. It was just a couple words. And I don't even know why I did it because I'm not that guy.
Right.
But I remember going home that night and I was in my room. It was at my mom's house. And there was the trade paperback of The Dark Knight. I could see it. And I was like, I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to show that guy that movie's probably going to suck.
No, I'll tell you what it really was. That was not it at all. I had said, you like Batman was a conversation. And I said to you, I wrote a report on Batman last year.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I said, you were like, really? And I said,
that's deeply interesting.
That was the moment where suddenly, after 8 months, the dude actually turned his head to be like, what? Like, I'm sorry, where'd you come from? Who are you? And I was like, yeah, I wrote a report on Batman and whatnot, and I got an A on it. And you were like, oh, get out of here. Can I read it? You actually asked to read it.
Really?
And I said, yeah, I'll bring it in. And I brought it in and gave it to you. And then the next day, when you came in, like we were still kind of at this point, a little more friendly, like you would chat more, but not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But when you came in after you read the report, like the day that I came in the next day, you were like, I was like, what'd you think? Well, how close was I? And you were like, that ain't Batman. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, there ain't no Anne Harriet in the comics. You were like, that's the Batman TV show. I was like, what do you mean? And you were like, well, you got some right stuff about Frederick Wortham and the seduction of the innocent, but you got it mixed in with they've never done that in the comics. There was never an Anne Harriet. They never did Chief O'Hara. That was all from the TV show. I was like, really? And you were like, I'll show you here, man. And that's when you brought in Dark Knight Returns. You're like, this is Batman. If you like Batman, dude, read this. This is real Batman.
I was like, all right. And I read The Dark Knight Returns for the first time. And that was 88.
Right.
So you had just started dating Debbie or gone out
or just met her.
Something like that. And next day I came in and I'd read the whole thing and I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. That was our whole friendship is predicated on Batman. But it's predicated on interest in comics because I come back and I'm like, this is great, man. What else is there? Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, you should come out and there's a ton of stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure to you, I was just a ride to a comic book store.
You got wheels?
This fat kid's got a car.
No, I remember you being
First taste is free, Tubby. Next taste is a ride.
You definitely had to like open up and say like, I'd like to go. If you ever going, I'd like to come along or something.
Yeah,
something
that would be very accurate. I would definitely.
You had to open that door.
This? Where do I get more of this? Essentially, was me.
I was like, you can go to a store, you can go to a show,
right? And I was probably like, hey man, next time.
And there was a show that weekend.
Okay,
in Port Monmouth, where I now live.
Get out of here! Oh, the VFW.
Yeah.
That's where I bought the Colt? Yes! In that fucking barn!
Yes, it's still there.
Holy shit. I paid $10 for issue 1 of the Colt in that fucking barn. And I remember I was like, look, dude, I got issue 1. You're like, how much? I was like, 10. You were like, ooh.
I didn't know you well enough to fucking rip your ass.
Like, Fonzie judged me.
Like Bryan
I'll never be
like, you dumb fuck. But I wasn't like that. I was like,
no,
you probably will.
True. You didn't fucking.
I didn't crush you.
Considering how insanely abusive you are to him about shit, you were way more gentle with me. You would be like, yeah, no, he might have, I don't know, you could probably get it for $5. You got to look around more next time. Like, it was more like, you'll do better next time, Padawan. Whereas to him, it's just like, fuck you, you idiot.
1 foot on the brake, asshole.
So it's all predicated on comics. And as you introduced me to comics, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I'd liked comics as a kid, but I'd stopped collecting. And, I told the whole, I remember saying, like, before high school started, I would read all this Marvel shit and wanted to go through it. And this is in high school. I just kind of let it go. And you're like, why? And I was like, I don't know. It was just kind of, nobody really read comics. Like, see, man, there's some badass fucking comics, man. People won't read them. Like, you got very, like, it was the stance of, like, you got to change your mind. You got to change the way of thinking and turn it around. So comics became a big, and one of the things that if you said to people, Kevin Smith, just name 5 things about him. The first will be the movies and or Clerks, one of the titles. But if the second thing will be what?
Not within comics.
Yes, fucking comics. Like people, I've become for over years the comics guru, and they go to me for a comics quote. And I've written, I own a comic book store. I'm a champion of comics. I work for here, and comic book guy. Unfortunately, is a terrible handle to be hung with, but it has been that, and it's appropriate size, appropriate. All predicated on you. I had no interest in reading comics as we know them today, and would have gotten around to them in college or something like that, or later on. I don't know. I didn't know anybody that read comics. Certainly not. He didn't. It's not like I started hanging out with him.
Well, I mean, like we started, and then after that show,
yes, that show. At the
you just
VFW
dropped
bar.
me off, and like, all right, I'll see you at work. Not really sure if we're like
dating or not.
Like
there was no kiss. There was no.
There's no like we're friends or whatever. Just like, all right, I'll see you at work.
Right.
And then we started talking more about comics, and then we started like going like to.
Now we have something to talk about.
Yes.
Which opens the door to all sorts of conversations. About
and I don't know if I even tell him that I'm hanging out with you.
Why?
I don't know, because like I'm sure you were
those terrible Ralph Cramden impressions.
No, because I don't. Because I'm like, he's not. I don't think he's a fan.
No, I think he's gone. Actually, he went to California because it's when we started 2 months into us hanging out is when I'm like, I think I saw Bryan Johnson in a car.
Yeah, but that was later. We were friends at that point.
You and I.
Yeah.
This is 2 months into our friendship. Bryan was already gone when we started hanging out because you were quasi dating Debbie.
But he played hockey with us the first time, though.
No, not before. We did not start hanging out with Bryan until
he came back.
Yeah.
Oh,
when we played hockey on the courts, it was me, you, Ed, and Hartsgrove. He was never a factor in it.
Okay. You probably
until he
definitely.
came back from.
I'm like, what the fuck's going on here?
What the fuck is this?
Is your friend? Oh, is your friend Walt?
There is definitely a little bit of that, I think, like a joke or two.
Every time one of you guys makes a new friend or tries to make a new friend, I'm there to be like, oh, no, we
to
don't.
Katz's, which is on Bay Avenue in Highlands. And no, I was heading to the rec, and I was walking past Katz's, and I looked, and I saw what I clearly thought was Bryan in the car driving, and it was almost like a movie, like no, like, and you're like, did I see what I saw? And when I got to the rec, I remember being like, I think I saw Bryan driving in town. And you're like,
no way.
Yeah, like
He's
Bryan's in California.
He's going to be a rock star.
That's what you did. You went to California to learn
To go to guitar school.
Explain
Yeah.
that, dude, because the likelihood. It's so weird to like put my head around you dedicated to the guitar, but I was there when you used to be like, I can't go out and practice them tonight.
I wanted to be in a band.
I
wanted
weren't you
to be
good enough to be in a band at that point?
Probably. I mean, I played with guys around here,
Right.
but I wanted to go. I wanted to be Yngwie Malmsteen. I wanted to be Paul Gilbert and these, neoclassical fusion guys that play really fast and really accurately and shit. And I didn't. The guys here were more into like death metal, that kind of shit. So when I found out that I could go to a school in LA, it was called GIT, Guitar Institute of Technology. It's fancy.
Which still exists.
It does still exist. And
Where is it located?
Scott Angley went there, the guy who did a song for Chasing Amy.
Scott Angley did a song for Clerks.
That's right. Love Among Freaks.
Yeah,
season,
Love
right?
Among Freaks, like the opening song and, and the closing theme. Well, we changed the closing theme song afterwards, but the opening song, like, and music and Berserker, they do the recording of Berserker that plays. So Scott Angley in our school in Highlands, which in Henry Hudson in Highlands, was a guitar hero, a guitar god. He was
really good.
Yngwie Malmsteen.
Prodigy. He could play Yngwie shit when he was like in 9th grade.
Dude had amazing flying fingers. And
right.
shit.
He was very good.
Did he live in Highlands or Atlantic Highlands?
He lived in Atlantic.
The talent shows were built around Scott Angley.
Right.
Scott Angley played, in the band when you did a high school performance and then a live band. He was the guy. And he wasn't like the best guitar player in your class. He was like
the best guitar player you ever met in real life.
Yeah, and we're likely to hear, even if you went to a concert, like this dude was clean, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So based on that, you were like, I want to go where he went?
No, he actually went after I did. I never actually made it to the school, but he went. I got to California. I met a guy in Brookdale Community College, and he wanted to go to that same school. Mm-hmm. So we decided to, and this is very, very unlike me. It was, it was actually a piano class.
So it was music.
I met him in, yeah.
And he's like, I got a dream too, man. I want to move.
I was like, yeah, what's yours?
To blow you. I got a dream.
Oh, I got a different dream. It had more to do with the guitar and less to do with blowing.
It's like, all right, let's go to LA. Blowing could happen. Not first.
Just say you won't rule it out. All right, fine. All right, we'll see what happens.
Need a roommate.
So,
you travel out there with him?
Travel out there with him. And that's
do you remember the day he told you, like, I'm going to go out to California guitar school? Was it a big enough deal where he had to tell you, or you found out like after he left? You're like, I've met Bryan.
And you wrote me a letter while I was there. I still have the letter.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He wrote me a letter when I was in school
You
out
wrote
there.
me letters when I was in school.
No
too.
email, right?
No.
But you honestly, you don't write as many emails as you did letters back in the day, based on.
You guys asked me to write though.
Yes, totally. Yeah. But you were the only one that did. Like when I went away to film school, and I was like, "You too, Bryan. You write."
Mm-hmm.
Like I will. Bryan, who I was very close with at that point, never wrote. Walter wrote. I have at least 4 letters from Walter, including like letters where like that's where we got the View Askew clown from Boulder.
From a metal
because
band.
Walter, was working on. He sent me copies, like Xerox copies of the stuff that he was working on for what band?
Demonacy.
Was it Demonacy?
Demonacy.
Yeah.
I was going to say Suicidal Tendencies. They were a real band.
They were a big band.
Demonacy's going to hear this big, what?
Yeah, they were metal. And they really weren't. They were more like fucking LA hardcore, right?
They were thrash. Yeah, real
thrash.
hard type.
So he would send in the letters, he would send, like the Xeroxes of the shit he was working on. And one was this clown in fishnets, and the clown was holding a chainsaw.
No, he's holding 2 like scissors cutting off his fingers.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think the version that I saw was him holding a chainsaw. In fact, I'm quite sure.
Yeah.
There
was a version with that, though. There was a version with a chainsaw. A monkey on his back, right?
Yes, there was a monkey on his back. I never saw the fingers cut off one. It was a clown in this pose with a chainsaw and a monkey on his back.
I had drawn one for the band where it was a clown with fishnets and whatever in a room full of candles, and he was cutting his fingers off. And they were like, "Oh, I like the picture, but they're going to think we're a queer band." With the fishnets.
You know how queer bands don't get any respect.
So they didn't want to use it.
We're going metal, not queer. And I remember asking you, when I wrote back, don't give them that clown. I want to use the clown as the
You didn't have to worry.
production
They didn't want it.
I know, but I remember don't put the clown into contention. I don't like the clown. Like, take the chainsaw out of his hand. Can you put a clapboard in his hand?
Kevin had no idea he was going to be a queer filmmaker.
And that was right before I made Philadelphia. No, it was that was the birth of the View Askew, first View Askew logo. It stuck around forever until it was the 10-year anniversary, and then we went with Jay and Bob. And it was in those drawings were contained in letters that, like, I'm not going to oversell them as as Shakespearean, but it was a dude who was, you'd write, like, you'd fill a page with words and it would be an arrow and you'd flip and there'd be more words on the other side. And it was all encouraging, which was weird because you were not like, you wouldn't be an encouraging person, and like, you wouldn't be discouraging, but you'd be more encouraging in print than you could ever be in the real world. And it was inspired.
Food Town guy.
Is that what it was?
I tried to tell him that on the last episode. They fucking shot me down as I was like, I was not, to being honest, I was bearing some demons, and they fucking weren't having any of it. Quinn and him.
Really?
Remember that kid, Sean?
Oh, and you said, yeah. Yeah, you said that you like, well, the way you fucking work into it is like, there's a guy who his sister writes, and like, basically she's like, my brother's an agoraphobic. And then he starts in with like, some people can have like just a little bit of that, right? Like some people that maybe
So that's
trying to get me to feel sorry for him.
I want everybody to feel a little sorry for me. I was taking a lot of heat. I need some sympathy.
That's true.
You were taking a lot of college hits. Yeah. Okay, so
I'm encouraging you.
So the letter's very encouraging and whatnot, and it's odd. It's like, of the two people you would imagine would write, of the two people, someone's like, only one of them's going to write you. You're like, well, it's definitely fucking Bryan. Because Bryan was more inclined to like fucking write, and Walter didn't seem like the writing type, and Walter wrote religiously. It was like you and my Aunt Barbara. And Aunt Barbara, like, you would send drawings, Aunt Barbara would send $20 and shit like that, because adults could put money in a fucking card or something like that. But you would send encouragement. You would constantly keep me updated on what was going on. And you would send me copies of the artwork that you were working on and shit like that. So comic books, big foundation of who I am, come right from you. The other thing, when somebody goes, Kevin Smith.
Movies, comics.
Hockey.
Yes.
Hockey,
Hockey, something that I would say at this point, like, almost synonymous with, and will be even more so by the time I make the hockey flick. Pre-1988, I'd never even seen a fucking. Oh, I know. I'd gotten dragged to a Devils game, a few times because my mom worked for a doctor in town who was a team doctor. Yeah, but I'd never gone in, and it wasn't interesting to me at all. It was somebody speaking about hockey passionately, and somebody you admired liking it, and it was just like, well, there must be some value to it. It's time to reconsider hockey, and then finding acceptance from Fonzie, so to speak, by being able to play the game. Like, well, we need a goalie.
Well, I remember that day.
What do you mean?
We went to a show in the morning,
right?
And you were like, you want to go somewhere else? Like, you want to hit this other?
I'm glad I wasn't around to witness this shit.
The like lookout point,
Blueberry Hill, Fonzie,
finding your thrills.
Is there a show up here? I'm like, there's gonna be. I'm gonna show.
No, you're like, let's go to another
show of indignity.
Let's go to let's go to Woodbridge and go to Comic Relief.
I'll show you a good time.
I'm gonna show mouth. You show cock.
And it's show gonna feel good.
All right, so I was like, you want to do anything else?
Let's go to Comic Relief in Woodbridge.
Let's dial it back. At this point, our comic relationship flourishes with every weekend now.
And I'm like I dug Timmy, I'm digging you because you're funny, and I like going out and buying
You
comics
still won't
with you.
compliment me on my high school sketch work. You know, the Ralph
At that point,
Cramden
I'd
stuff.
forgotten about that. That's
But when
well-
you befriended him, I remember you called me and you talked about Kev and you said, you know, Kevin Smith, and I did know him. Like I knew of him and I had spoken to him a couple times, but you said he's a pretty funny guy. And you told me the joke he made about somebody down at the rec, one of the kids was sick and their parents wouldn't give him medicine or something. And Kev was pretending that he was an Amish guy. Do you remember that?
No.
I do
Yeah.
remember that bit.
Do you remember that
Just
joke?
Like, we can't have this medicine up the
Yes,
house.
yes. And Walt was like, he's pretty funny.
Yeah, I do remember that.
But I remember that afternoon we went to a show or went to a store and I had to get back because I
But
was
we've been
playing
doing
hockey.
this a lot. I'm sorry, that was the point. Like every weekend, we would go out to shows. Like the first time I went with you to the VFW show, I was, that's great. Let's do it all the time. There's shows every weekend.
Yeah, we
Or
go to
if
New
not
York.
just shows, if there were no shows to go to, because there weren't shows every weekend, but there was always like a
store.
a monthly show in New Jersey, but a monthly show in New York too at the Penta and stuff. So, but in between what to do on the other weekends, we would just go explore and look at other comic book stores in like other. That's how I learned about the rest of New Jersey,
Yeah.
which is another thing that Kevin Smith is always fucking identified with. We traveled. Never went anywhere outside of like maybe to see my grandparents down south in Tom's River and fucking relatives in Harrison. I didn't see the rest.
We
of the
went
state
all
at
over Jersey, and the weirdest thing, like he thought I was weird, but I thought he was weird because he was constantly stopping at a phone.
To call his mom.
And I was like, I didn't know who he was calling though. And I was like, what the fuck is he doing?
This is in the days before a cell phone,
Yeah.
which would have made life so much easier. But I lived under such it wasn't. I'd grown up with it, so it didn't I didn't find it odd. But these two were always staring at me whenever I was just like, "Yeah, I can't go to the movies." My mom says
I went
I
out too much.
It's true. My mom said I was out since 2:00, so I should be home now. And they would stare at me blankly. I remember the first time we were going to go to a movie, and I was like, hold on, I'm going to go get my jacket. And that was an excuse to be like, go in and put FaceTime in and be like, I'm going to go to the movies. Is that okay? I didn't need a jacket, but I had to like go present to mom and be like, I'm thinking of going to the movies with these guys unless you tell me I can't. And she shut it down.
I'm friends with tough boys, Mom.
Yeah. I was like, this time I can go to the rec, do ceramics, and someone will get my back. I remember she was like, no, you're done for the day. You've been out a lot. You've been out too much today. And so I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. I was like, okay. And I went outside because it never occurred to me to be like, no. It never occurred to me to be like, I'm 18.
To start swinging at you, Dad.
Yeah, no, not at all. I was like, what she said was the law. I was more scared of my mother than my father. So I was just like, she just gave me more of a hassle. Dad would just be like, what do you want, to spank it or something? But at that age,
18.
I guess at that age, no. And my father wasn't the like, let's fight on the lawn type. So it's not like he was not really disciplinarian past a certain point. She was kind of the strict rule.
Let's fight on the lawn.
Yeah, I would scrap with my mom out the door and onto the lawn, throwing rocks in her face in the gravel driveway. So, I would come out and be like, all right, so I'm gonna stay home. My mom says I can't go, and these guys, like literally, Bryan goes, yeah, come on, let's go. And I was like, no, I'm serious, I gotta stay here. And they both, like the confusion that crossed your faces. I just knew the worst part of it was walking back into that house knowing that entire ride to the movie theater was just going to be like, what the
skewering.
Yes, what was that about? And what a fucking little baby. And oh my God. I was like, oh, how do I face these fuckers tomorrow? So I'd stop all the time and constantly call in from a fucking payphone.
What is he doing everywhere?
I had a fucking warden, man. And she, as previously discussed, she didn't respect the fact that you didn't drive. So she's like, you're driving this guy everywhere. You went to New York with him? And that was something I didn't do. Like, I didn't really start navigating the world or the tri-state area until we started going to comic book shows. Like, back in the day when I hung out with Ernie and Mike, Ernie was the first driver. So Ernie, like the few times we went to New York to buy the overcoats and shit, he drove. So I was not the go to New York type myself, but because of the two of us, one of us didn't drive. I had to I've been to New York. I think I can do this. And this is before the GPS and MapQuest. This is just like literally pulling out a map
and going, I guess if we left here and got on the Garden State Parkway, mapping it out and stuff. And so I learned the state and the area by going from store to store, as we do every weekend, looking for bargains. I remember the store. It wasn't, I think it was over in it was Mattawan, but it was very deep in the woods part of Mattawan, like run by an Asian dude, and that a Killing Joke.
Three Bears, it was called.
3 Bears, that's it. That's right. They had like Killing Joke still on the rack. First printings that was an instant wall book the week it came out.
Good times, man.
Oh, totally. We would go exploring and shopping and laugh and talk.
Some of the best times.
Yes, hands down.
Discovering a new store and being like, oh, I got everything.
Yes. and just like the quiet.
I got to go home.
I gotta go home, Mom.
We just got here.
Mom, yeah, it's me. They've got everything. Walt said, all right, I gotta go.
I'm at 3 Bears. What?
It's a fucked up name for a comic book
It is
store.
weird.
Yeah, man, it was like looking for treasure and finding gold and shit like that. And just also, you got to, what was it called? Empirically relive the building of a collection through me.
Right.
Like you had your collection. So, you could continue adding to it, but the thrill of the hunt wasn't there as much because you had almost everything you wanted. Suddenly there was a dude who was just like, I need it all. And you were like, let's hunt.
Yeah.
And the fucking
Suicide Squad.
Totally.
You gotta get it.
Yeah. You guys should read this. You should read this. And I would fucking go out and complete that run and read it. And every weekend we would go out and do something. Go to some comic book store and then go eat at a mall, or let's look around. And again, this wasn't like you couldn't enter into Google comic book stores in Woodbridge.
No.
You would literally drive around like a pepper rat, trolling neighborhoods, slowly going, is that one? Because in the distance you saw a colorful window cling, and you're like,
right.
Fuck, it's a greeting card store. But maybe they have it. You're like, it was literally, you had to get that one.
I had some knowledge, though, because in my youth, though, my mom would take me to any comic book store she ever saw. She saw it in a newspaper, like a comic book store opening, or we would go all over. So I had somewhat of a knowledge. Right. But I didn't have know the directions that good, but I could get us into somewhat near it.
Why do you think your mom was so encouraging about the comics?
I don't know. It was I look back on it she was like.
So weird. You grew up to be a comic book. You run a comic book store and you're a professional comic book artist. Like literally, you're like your mom's like Gretzky's dad. Putting him in the car and taking him to practice.
Yeah,
not as bossy.
But she would take me to any comic book store, and if I let's say I remember when the Watchmen hardcover came out from Graffiti.
Yeah.
What year would that be? 86, 87?
Yeah, I want to say 87 actually. Sold
out everywhere. I told her, I was like, this is before eBay, before going online and trying to find it. I was like, yeah, there's a book that came out and I didn't get it. And she goes, well, I got nothing to do tomorrow. And I'm old at this point. And she's like, we'll just drive around until we find it. And we just drove around.
But your mom was...
Now you're a parent.
Yeah, I do that. Yes, I do that. Yeah, I'll do that for my kids in a heartbeat. And that is a great memory, though.
But also think about it, how rare, because you were a late teenager at that point.
Right.
Most people would be like, I'm not driving anywhere with you, Mom. But you actually imagine how, as a parent now, you can imagine how charming it must have been for her to be like, I get to hang out with my teenage son and he's not rebelling.
No, we had a good time.
Yeah, that's
she has somewhat, not as crass as my sense of humor, but she's got a sense of humor. We would laugh about shit too, though, going around.
You mock others.
Mostly me, probably. But I remember your mom always, when we were younger, my mom, if we went to the movies, the farthest she was going to go was Middletown. But your mom would bring us to Sayreville. She would bring us up to Hazlitt.
My mom had no problems driving.
She drove us to Sayreville to see Stir Crazy.
Where? To what?
She brought us to Sayreville to see Stir Crazy when we were in sixth grade.
Out by the Amboys, that bridge.
That big bridge, the Driscoll Bridge.
Yeah. So when it was a multiplex?
We saw Dice Clay
there. Yeah. Ford Fairlane?
No, the Dice Man.
The concert movie.
Who went? You and I?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that movie. We went to see that in a theater. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing.
I went to see it with you.
Yeah, we went to. Amboys.
I don't think I was.
I remember
going to see. We went to see King of New York. New Jack City. No, We went to see an urban movie. I forget which one it was, and we were terrified.
Yeah, because there was always to report every weekend someone shooting at the screen.
Literally, yeah. I'm not even going like, well, it was the wrong side of the tracks. There were shootings every week at this theater.
Nobody was ever hit, but they always shoot
we
at the
went.
movie screen.
We went to see in that theater. What was that Cronenberg movie about the twins, Dead Ringers? We went to see that.
We didn't see that there. I saw Dead Ringers with you guys. That was at Middletown when Middletown had a theater before where it's Target now.
Really?
Because I thought Vinny went with us.
He did. I remember we were all.
We saw that
bored.
Frankenstein.
But that was New Jack City.
What
Kenneth
Frankenstein?
Branagh.
Where?
Or Dead Again there.
Dead Again. I remember seeing Dead Again.
We saw that
yes,
there.
you're right. We did. We trapped. Yes, and I remember we were like, I can't believe we went all this way for this movie because not only was it going as because it was a
Why
pretty.
did I say Frankenstein?
It was a Kenneth Branagh. He was in Dead Again, and he made Dead Again, and he was in and made
That wasn't.
Oh, okay.
You saw that in Sayreville?
No, I saw that. Yeah, in Sayreville.
And I went with you because you got mad at me because I fell asleep. I'd been up since 6 a.m. Walt's like, let's go see a fucking movie that starts at 1 a.m. This is a guy who doesn't get up until 2.
Yes.
And he's like, what the
right,
fuck?
man.
Why are you falling asleep?
Your schedule was like you were the late riser. Like you, I guess you didn't really.
And you
start
have to
the
be at
rec
work till
until
1. Yeah, so I'd get up at 12.
And you would stay. Your schedule really hasn't changed in years. You would stay up late drawing or fucking
Watching TV,
or watching TV
reading
or
comics.
skating.
Yeah.
Remember when we used to skate like and once again in Highlands. When I first started playing hockey, and then at one point you were like, you should get some skates. You had inline skates. He had inline, but Ed particularly had inline skates, and had kind of mastered them and whatnot. And so I got inline skates, and then you had come back at this point, and we were all hanging out, but we were just skating at night all through Highland. Like it was a kind of cool memory and a kind of cool impression of like big skates, like through the back roads and then back onto the main drag and then down to Huddy.
And nobody had inline skates at that time, so everyone would look at you.
Yeah.
These guys doing?
And again, late at night. And there was a sense of like a quiet rebellion of like, I hope somebody fucks with this. There was like, I hope the cops say something. Because it's like, what are we doing wrong? Nothing. Like getting the defense ready in advance and shit like that. And nobody ever said anything. But we would just go out. And that would
These fags roller skating.
yeah, they were looking at us like, this is the future. This is scary. They were just like, that's gay. There goes the neighborhood.
Disco skating.
I remember my mother couldn't understand this. She's like, why on earth would you go
You're
out
grounded. I just want to skate, Ma.
Fucking skated to the block, called from a payphone. Skated one block, called from that payphone. You're like, we can't get any speed going, Kev. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's the only way I can do it.
Do you know who was? I guess I thought it was you, but I know who it was reluctant to have you come on board to play hockey with us.
Hapstack?
Yes.
Really? Why?
He's like, oh, your comic book friend's going to play now?
Ed?
Yeah.
And I knew Ed by this point, too. I knew
Ed.
Ed.
To hockey, though.
Really? That was your thing with him.
That was like my little thing, and I was just like,
do you
he just
support
wants
the
to
theory
try.
that everybody tries harder with Walt? You must. I listen to your fucking show.
No.
I mean, you have to at this point. It seems like you may be the most powerful individual, the most powerful agent of change in all of us. You know what I'm saying? Like at one point I do what I do and then I'm able to be like, let's do this. But it's all predicated on your approval. If we don't start talking comics, that doesn't develop. And if we don't start talking hockey, that doesn't develop. And our friendship doesn't develop. I have no friends at that point, actually. If we don't start talking.
I'll go with that, but to say that like you're like you wouldn't have done anything is ridiculous, though.
I don't know. Think about Mallrats. Think about Clerks. Like
So it wasn't
the
like you're not
influence of
laying in
hockey and
bed going,
Clerks.
I'm going to make a movie for Walt.
No. Yeah, particularly not with my arms up behind my head. But no, but definitely there was a sense.
Go to bed, Tiger. You're not making no movies.
Call me from bed.
There was definitely a sense of try harder to get to. Am I crazy? Am I wrong?
But I'll tell you, I was definitely like, I never probably told you this though, but I was definitely very proud of how you became a good goalie after like hearing Ed like fucking go like, why are you letting your little comic books fag friend play?
What do you mean?
Like you, he
delivered.
was telling me,
so there was a moment of doubt when he said that. You were like, "Oh shit, maybe I backed the wrong horse."
yeah,
Like
maybe.
Walt vouched for you.
Yeah,
and you came
and
through.
then I came
I
through.
didn't even really vouch for him. I was like, let him fucking. He wants to try. I go, what? We need another goalie. We were fucking playing with a stop sign, weren't we?
Yeah,
it was a traffic cone.
That's right. It was like
He's got to be better than a garbage can.
a handicapped guy in one net and a cone in the other. That's a ragtag league, man.
You can't play.
Yeah, that is pretty weird, man. I mean, it wasn't even like, we need your skills. It was just like, we need a body.
Like you can move. So.
And I was like, I can play? I was not.
Can I bring my teapot?
I'll serve you guys tea after the game.
Well, I was like, Kev, kill the teapot. Ed's going to kick your ass.
Stay on the tee in front of Eddie.
I fucking pull up to play for the first time and I open up the back of my car and there's a kiln. I'm like, I thought I'd make pucks.
He definitely didn't want you to play, though. He definitely scoffed at it.
Really?
And what, and then going on to like stone him and him getting frustrated at you.
Yeah.
By not being able to score on you. It was a moment where I was just like,
Good.
Like I was right. I did back the right horse.
yeah.
He
He would get frustrated big time too. Throw a stick across the street and
that's
freak
not all
out,
he
break
breaks the
shit.
Ed, that was the most violent activity I'd ever seen in my life. And I'm like, this guy's our friend? He would do stuff like cool shit. Like once Ed got into something, he got into it passionately. Ed didn't live in Highlands. He lived in Atlantic, but he might as well. He's honorary Highlands, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he eventually moved there.
That's true. All right, so eventually he winds up in Highlands. But Ed would once he got into us playing regularly, strung the boards around the tennis court.
He
He would build nets, like wood
He
regulation
had a
size
passion.
nets. He had a passion for it. But then since he built the shit, he also felt that
I can break it if I want.
in his passionate frustration, he was all heart hockey, dude. He was all fucking heart, man. It was all passion.
He was.
You just thought he was a goon?
I know. He just was. What's it called?
Crazy.
Well, not crazy, but he was like. I guess he was like some sort of depressive.
Manic depressive?
Yeah.
Maybe.
He took it way too seriously. Like I could get
He
into
would
it.
beat his own brother.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like that stick would swing in ways where you were like, it shouldn't. Like you see in Clerks in the scene on the roof, Ed do a fake swing
They
at
beat each
Scott
other.
as he walks off.
Yeah.
Like as he walks off frame,
Right,
he does
yeah.
that fake hit. That was modeled after real life, like him just literally like hitting Steve Hornacek as hard as you've ever seen anybody hit somebody else across the back.
He hit
with a
Devaney.
hockey stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would hit his brother. Him and his brother would fight. Like we'd be having an awesome game. Ed would get frustrated, get in a fight with his brother, and all of a sudden, like we'd lose 2 players right there. And then it was just like, all right.
It was probably crazy at the time to think this, but it never occurred to me that he would hit me.
No,
Like
I
I-
knew he wasn't going to hit us.
Yeah.
Why those guys? Why did he designate them as
I
people
think-
who could take it and not us?
I don't think I don't think that it was
He's
that.
like,
I
he'll
just think
shatter like a fucking pottery.
I just think he almost like he knew there was people that he could hit like that, and they would be like, "Come on, dude, just knock it off." And I think there was a little element of that though.
The other times he would get frustrated, and then he would take his stick and bring it down straight through the crossbar
And just
thus
crush the net.
destroying the
Yeah,
net that
he
he
would
built,
get
which
so
was made
upset.
out of like really thin wood, not balsa, but thin, like what would you call that thin kind of square
Plywood.
Yeah, but very thin version of it with a fishing net tied around. It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah, we used to get fishing nets from
yeah.
Spencer's all
it was
the
a
time.
very like for a Little Rascals,
And then later used them to fucking put
hang
toys up
stuff
in the store.
but nothing's wasted.
But he was into it though. He loved it. He loved playing, and he was and when he wasn't like getting upset by it, he was a good player, and his brother
He was
good.
awesome on skates too.
Yeah, but he would I guess take it too seriously. Like I like to play and I would take it seriously, but once it was over, I wasn't like I'm going to break some shit now.
Yes, maybe somebody's arm.
Yeah, he would get frustrated. He would like yell if you fucked up in goal.
I would yell too, though. But I mean, I
You never yelled at me in goal.
Hartsgrove got most of that.
Yeah, you
I would
did.
yell at him because he was always fucking standing next to you.
Talking to you.
Where the fuck is this guy at? We need him
It's
down
so
here.
weird. He would literally chastise us between like somebody would go and be like, "If you wouldn't be such a fucking bookend," and then just walk away, and we were like, "Bookend."
I'm talking to my friend.
Yeah. But you never really yelled at me. I would see you yell at Hartsgrove, which I was always like, again, like, how can they do this to this poor handicapped boy? They're just mistreating him and yelling at him and chopping at his fingers. It's so cruel. But he could totally take it, man. I guess you guys are good at reading what level of who could take what and shit. Like, we can give this much abuse to this
Yeah, well,
person.
Ed's never going to fucking destroy Hartsgrove's back with his stick.
No.
His fingers,
he
her
did it
fingers,
too.
his fingers were fair game.
Literally take digits off if he
Yeah.
could.
But he was also doing it to his brother, which was, I guess there was a feeling of like, it's my brother. I can do whatever I want.
Right, like a familiarity there.
Yeah.
Bryan, would you support the powerful Walt as the most powerful agents of the change in our that we've ever known? I mean, who else do you know that's a more powerful? Well, I mean, who else? Do
You.
Yeah, I know, but tracing it back. In order for my theory to work, you can't trace it back and stop.
Can't be
at
to
me.
you.
You go one step further. It's like you watch True Blood.
No, that's a
Never watched
vampire
it?
show, right?
Yeah.
No.
It's good. It's good. Walt would
I look
be
at the screen
considered-
caps of her naked boobies, but
Oh yeah, right. It's a good show. You would dig it. Walt would be considered the maker, the first vampire that makes you a vampire, and then like you spend your whole lifetime loyal to your maker and shit like that. You're always there for him, blah blah blah. You really did kind of kickstart.
What does that say though? Like the guy who fucking doesn't have a license, works 3 hours a day, and you guys are like,
what kind of losers are you
we
fucking
got to
guys?
impress this guy.
I don't obviously have no self-esteem.